everybody, and it has been a very long time. Much longer than I would have liked to have been away from the channel, but with moving, which as you can see, we did it! And it happened. Can you believe it? And all of that going on, my computer broke a couple months ago. Didn't break, but I needed work done on it. A big setback. It's all good now. But with all of that, I just needed a break. As I said in a community post, I've needed a break. And over these past few months, I have been brainstorming something big. Big to me, anyways. As you guys know, since I've started YouTube over 2.5 years ago, I have pretty much exclusively done Wedlocke Challenges, which is a Nuzlocke Challenge variant, my bad, from popular and fellow YouTuber Marriland. And since I have been here for almost 3 years now, I feel like I've cemented myself as a bit of a staple in the Wedlocke Nuzlocke community, if you will. Even though I'm not that big, I still have done a lot of them, and I consider myself fairly good at them, as you guys do as well. And with all of that being said, I feel like I have the experience required to go ahead and put my foot forward and try and make a Nuzlocke variant of my own, which is something that I have been thinking about over the past few months, as I said, and this idea is basically the child of those thoughts. Think freedom of a Nuzlocke meets the challenge of a Wedlocke. One thing that I really wanted to come out of this variant is for it to be simple and easy to understand. This is something that people that make Nuzlocke variants tend to struggle with. Almost all of the variants that I have seen are so many rules. There's so many rules to them, all these crazy things that can happen. And while that might be fine for somebody's personal playthrough, having that be a staple like the Wedlocke Challenge isn't really possible because it's just so much detail that you have to remember. And I wanted this one to be very simple and easy to understand, similar to the Wedlocke. And I think I've actually managed to have that happen. I think it might even be more simple. Written down, it's not simple at all, but I've thought it out really well, and I'm really excited to share this with you. So with that, I bring you the FateLocke. The FateLocke is as it sounds. It's based around fate, or luck, if you will, which is basically what the Nuzlocke is entirely about. It comes down to luck a lot of times, whether it be critical hits or having a bad matchup against a fight. But that's not what it's all about. It's not entirely luck. The FateLocke is, like I said, it's a challenge of a Wedlocke meets the freedom of a Nuzlocke. And I wanted to go ahead and bring those two together to hopefully create the perfect variant. The Wedlocke has been amazing, and I've done so many of them, as you know, but there's always been things lacking for me. When you're really good at the game, the first 6 Pokemon you catch in a Wedlocke are the 6 Pokemon you use pretty much the whole game. I've had this happen multiple times, and you don't get to use those really unique and exciting Pokemon that you catch along your journey, because for you to use a new Pokemon, disaster has to strike, and you have to lose a Pokemon to add a new one. But in a Nuzlocke challenge, any Pokemon you catch can just be added and swapped around on your team at your will. But I like the challenge of a Wedlocke because it brings 2 Pokemon, and those 2 can only fight together. How do you mix the 2 together? That's what I asked myself, and I came up with a pretty great idea, I think, that I hope all of you guys are going to like just as much as I do. As for the name, coming up with a name that nobody has used before is pretty much impossible. Anybody can go ahead and make a brand new variant on the spot, give it a name that's never been used, and that name has just been canned on something nobody will probably ever play. Not to sound harsh, but a lot of people do make things that they just play for themselves, or they are a smaller channel that does the series, and they're the only one that does it. Which could be said for the one that I'm about to do, because I'm not very big at all. I'm still a really small channel. But with the following that I have, that everybody plays Wedlocks and Nuzlocks in my Discord server, I think this is something that could be picked up and played by a lot of people, and hopefully other YouTubers alike. So, I came up with FateLocke a couple of months ago. I liked it because it fit the theme really well, and I couldn't find anything for it on YouTube. But last week, a German YouTuber started a FateLocke of their own. It's nowhere near the same thing as far as I know. I don't know the language, so I can't read the rules, but it looks like a completely different thing. It just has the same name, and I've had this in motion for a couple of months now, as noted in my Discord server, so I'm not going to change the name. I'm still going to stick with it, and it's just something that I decided I'm going to do. With that all out of the way, let's jump into what makes a FateLocke what it is. The standard Nuzlocke rules do apply, of course, for this challenge, meaning any Pokemon that faints is considered dead and may never be used in the adventure again. They must be put in a PC box permanently or released. I tend to go with the releasing option as it just adds to the story a little bit more. You must nickname every Pokemon that you catch. Adds to the story a lot more. So I see a theme here. And you may only catch the first Pokemon you find on any route or given area. As previously stated, what makes a Wedlocke so challenging is that your Pokemon are paired up and must fight in pairs. Well, they must beat the battle they are fighting together and by themselves or die trying, which obviously makes the challenge much harder. And in a Nuzlocke, you can switch between all 6 of your Pokemon at free will and even change your team up with your PC with new Pokemon that you find. Freedom and challenge. I wanted to bring them together. I wanted to mix them together in a way that's still challenging, but also gives me the freedom of being able to use any Pokemon that I find on my adventure. You know, without having to have disaster strike first. So, in the FateLocke, once you can have a full party, you must always have a full party. And if you don't, it can be very detrimental to your team. The only thing you have control over when you enter a battle is the Pokemon that you start that battle with, your lead. That lead will only have one Pokemon to battle that fight with, similar to a Wedlocke. However, that Pokemon isn't up to you. That Pokemon is decided by fate, by a roll of the die. When you roll the dice, you either get a number 1 through 6. In this case, I got a 4. That wasn't a real dice roll, but you get what I'm saying. So, top to bottom, your party, left to right, top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, decides what number 4 would be. Obviously, 4 would be this slot, meaning your lead gets to fight with number 4. So the only thing you have control over is who you lead with. Everything else is left up to fate. Before you can have a full party, however, if you roll an empty slot, it isn't detrimental to you at all. You get to pick who your lead gets to fight with. This is the balance of the early game when you can't have a full party. And to prevent cheating in this sense, not cheating, but kind of like abusing the system, you have to catch the first 6 Pokemon that you find. You're not allowed to skip encounters in the early game. And it doesn't matter because if you don't like those 6, you can just switch them around once you get more Pokemon. But that makes it so once you can have a full party, which will be early on, before the first gym in most games, you have to have that full party. Meaning you can't abuse the give yourself half a chance to pick your partner. No, we're playing with a full team. You get to use 6 Pokemon, which means that could be 6 unique members that you get to play the game with. Who wants to play with half a team? You have to play with a full team in this variant. And you're going to want them all to be equal level and be using them all. Because you don't know who's going to get pulled up. You could have a party of 6 and you didn't train your 6th Pokemon yet. Roll number 6 and your lead's in trouble. Now, what if you roll a 1, which would obviously be the slot that your lead is in? You get to pick as well. So you have a 1 in 6 chance to carve your own fate. What if you can have a full party, but you chose not to? Once you have had the ability to have a full party, if you roll an empty slot, that means it's your fault your party isn't full. And your lead is now a lone wolf for that fight. Meaning, like I said, it's very detrimental to not have your team filled up. You want to have your team filled up with 6 Pokemon, all ready to go. Because you never know when they're going to be called on. Now, this opens up a ton of strategy options and different playstyles. Your normal player, like myself, would probably would just play with your core 6, and if one of them die, you'd want to add another one on. I don't like to experiment too much, but in this, I probably will. However, somebody that's super strategic, not that I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Say you're going to go ahead and fight Candace. My regular party is alright for Candace, but I got a grass type and a flying type. What do? I could tempt fate and go in with my Infernape and roll the dice and get a Staraptor. Infernape's now on his own. However, I could get a little smart about it. I could have 4 fire types in the PC. Not likely in Platinum, but go with it. I could train them all up, put them in the party along with Infernape, and now I've got a much better chance to roll a good partner for that fight. There are so many different options and strategy things that you can do to change your fate. You can either fight the odds, go for it, see what happens, or you can attempt to craft your own fate. So, what if your pair is to die? Well, obviously, in a Wedlocke challenge, you just send out one of your 2 remaining pairs. But in the FateLocke, your 4 remaining Pokemon aren't paired. They're all alone, as they would be in a Nuzlocke challenge. However, they still do have to fight in pairs. So what you would do is pick one of the 4 remaining Pokemon you have left as your new lead. Send it out, and then roll the die again to get a partner for that Pokemon. If you're to roll a number on the die that corresponds to one of the dead Pokemon or to your new active Pokemon, you would then get to pick that Pokemon's partner. Which basically means you would have a 1 in 3 chance about to go ahead and pick the Pokemon's partner. Which in that situation would be a bit of a turn in fate, if you will. You'd get to write your fate, meaning the more punishing a battle gets, the better chance you have at being able to turn things around in your favor by picking that Pokemon's partner. For example, let's say your team is as follows. You have a Houndoom as your lead, with Gardevoir, Medicham, Rampardos, Bebarrel, and Torterra. You lead with Houndoom, you roll the die at the start of the fight to get Houndoom a partner. You roll a 4. Houndoom and Rampardos are now your pair for that fight. Left to right, top down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. They both die. Horrible things have happened. You need to pick the next Pokemon in your party that is the best thing for this situation. Think of it as picking a new pair, but you're only picking one Pokemon. Pick the best thing you've got. Send it in. In this case, let's say I send in Medicham, which is number 3. I now need to go ahead and roll the die to get Medicham a new partner. If I roll the die and it lands on the new active Pokemon, being Medicham, which would be 3, or one of the 2 dead Pokemon, 1 or 4, I then get to go ahead and pick Medicham's partner. Or if I roll a 2, 6, or a 5, not a dead Pokemon and not Medicham, the Pokemon we just picked, they are the new partner. So I basically, at this point, got a 50-50 chance, about a 50-50 chance, it's not quite that, but close enough, to go ahead and right the wrong that just happened. I have a chance to turn the tide in my favor. The worse a fight gets, the less punishing it is. In the case of a double battle that you see ahead of time, and it must be fought as a double battle, anything that can be fought as a single battle must be done as a single battle. But if you see a double battle that has to be a double battle, there's no way around it, you would then stop before you fight them, if you can, and you would put your lead that you want for the fight, and then roll for your partner before the battle. That way, when you get into the battle, they're in slot 1 and 2. So you would say you roll a 4, you would put the Pokemon that was in slot 4 in slot 2, and then start the battle with whoever your lead would be in slot 1. If one of your Pokemon is to die in that double battle, then you would just roll as normal for a new partner for the other Pokemon on the field. And if you roll for the Pokemon that is currently active, or the Pokemon that just died, same as it always works for any other fight, you would then get to pick. And in the case of a triple or rotation battle that you know is coming, you would just go ahead and roll for 2 partners up ahead. You'd roll for them. After that, you'd put your lead in slot 1, the one that you pick, and then the 2 you rolled for would go in slots 2 and 3. And if a Pokemon is to die in those battles, you would just go ahead and re-roll again. And as always, if it's an active Pokemon or the Pokemon that is dead, you get to pick. And in the case of a rotation battle, all 3 Pokemon are allowed to take part in the fight. Let's say we have the same Pokemon up front. Say Houndoom is in slot 1, and we rolled for a partner, and we got Medicham, which is slot 3 still. And a Pokemon uses Roar on Houndoom. And Houndoom then gets sent out into Rampardos. Houndoom and Rampardos are now the pair. Medicham is now disbanded. Houndoom takes a new partner in Rampardos. This would work in any situation. Say Houndoom is out, and I switch into Medicham, and then Medicham is getting the Roar. The Pokemon that gets hit with the Roar is now paired up with the Pokemon that is called out from Roar. If it calls out the Pokemon that it's fighting with anyways, nothing happens. The Pokemon hit with the Roar now becomes the lead to the Pokemon that is called out. And just so it's entirely clear, if it wasn't, you pick your lead, whoever you want to, you lead with, and then once the fight has begun, once the battle's begun, you roll for the partner. You don't roll for the partner before the fight starts unless it is a double battle you see coming, or a triple or rotation battle. In the end, these are just the rules that make up the core of the FateLocke. Anything extra you add, such as having to fight all legendaries, or a level limit, those are extra rules that you may add for your own personal adventures, and they have nothing to do with what makes the FateLocke a FateLocke. This is the rules of the core FateLocke. Anything extra is extra, and they're things that I will be playing with as well. This is just the basic FateLocke. If you want to play one as well, definitely play along with the journey that I will be bringing to you way sooner than you might think. I hope you're looking forward to it, because I've never done this, and I'm looking forward to testing the very first FateLocke live with you all. I can't wait to see you there. I hope you guys are looking forward to it, and until then, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching!
Good thing I don't do blooper reels.
It has been a long time. Much longer than I wanted to be away. But... dogs. Freaks, I tell you what. They're just freaks. That's all they are. They're freaks. They're over there. PG channel. Go ahead and put back on the glasses. I can't see shit without them. And let's restart. So with that, I definitely prefer the releasing of them. It just feels more like a real story that way versus, box them all. No, we're done. We're not going to put my opinion into it. It's not about me. They must either fight the battle that they have... I wanted to mix...